The moment Lisa dialed 911 because I wouldn't let her into my house after I caught her siphoning electricity from my line was the exact second I realized this wasn't just about power, Anna Marie, it was war. Full-on ridiculous suburban war. The kicker? The land she was stealing from wasn't just mine. I'd recently leased it to the utility company for tower maintenance. So she wasn't only pilfering my electricity, she was tapping into a government-monitored grid and then had the nerve to call the cops when I refused her entry to, check, my breaker box. Let me back up about 8 months. I lived just outside the city in a house my grandfather built with his own hands in the 1960s. 3 generations of my family have called it home, and I inherited it from my parents 2 years ago. We're not wealthy, but the land is ours, solid, peaceful, free of mortgages, landlords, or HOAs. That is, until a glossy new development called Silver Ridge Estate sprouted next door like an invasive weed, complete with fake waterfalls, imported palms, and the chaos incarnate herself, Lisa. The first time I met her, she pulled up in a hulking white SUV that matched her oversized personality. She wore designer shades that cost more than my grocery bill and a jacket that screamed, "I terrorize baristas for fun." With a smile so fake it made my teeth ache, she introduced herself as the HOA president of Silver Ridge. Before I could even nod, she launched into her pitch. "We're updating our community standards, and since your property borders ours, we'd love to discuss your integration into the Homeowners Association." I said, not plain and simple. My land predated her plastic paradise, and I had zero interest in joining an HOA, especially one led by someone who looked like she thrived on petty power trips. Her smile faltered for a split second, then came the line that should have tipped me off to the hell ahead. "You must understand your rustic setup impacts our community's image. We have standards to uphold." She sounded like a reality TV star with a vendetta. I repeated my no, thinking that'd be the end of it. It wasn't. Lisa didn't take rejection well. The harassment started small in sign letters in my mailbox claiming my orange trees were too tall, my shed violated some imaginary code, and my gate didn't match their approved aesthetic. I ignored it all. I wasn't in their HOA. They had no authority over me. But Lisa didn't like being dismissed. Then my electric bills spiked. I work in construction management, I know how to read a meter, and I damn well know when something's wrong. My usage hadn't changed, but the numbers were climbing like they were racing to the moon. So one sweaty Sunday I grabbed a flashlight and clipboard and scouted my property. Near the road, hidden behind thick shrubs, I found it. A cable snaking from my power line, poorly buried under leaves, running straight to the HOA's guard shack. From there it split off to their gaudy illuminated gate and a mess of security cameras. My anger didn't just simmer, it erupted. I snapped photos, recorded video, and called the power company. A tech came out, took one look, and confirmed it was an illegal tap. He documented everything, giving me solid proof. The next day, I stormed into the HOA office, a place that looked like a boutique hotel lobby. Lisa sat there, perched behind a desk like she ruled the world, sipping what I'd bet was an overpriced latte. She barely glanced up as I walked in. "Yes," she said, bored. I laid it out a tap, the EVY Denke, the tech's report, and demanded they disconnect it and pay me back every cent they'd stolen. She laughed. Actually laughed. Leaning back in her cushy chair, she said, "Oh, don't be so dramatic. Your property benefits from our security. You should be thanking us." That's when I knew she wasn't just entitled, she was unhinged. "You're stealing my electricity," I shot back. Her mask slipped. She leaned forward, voice low. "Do you know who my husband is? Do you know who lives here? Cooperate, or things will get ugly." I walked out. That night, I called contractors. By the next evening, they poured concrete and built an 8-foot wall around my entire property, reinforced gate, cameras, motion sensors. If she wanted war, I'd build a fortress. The day after it was finished, Lisa showed up, not alone but with 2 cops in tow, screaming outside my gate about how I was sabotaging critical community infrastructure. She demanded access to my breaker box because she was essential. I watched via my cameras as she flailed dramatically, claiming I was a neighborhood threat. One cop, an older guy who clearly dealt with her type before, asked for my property docs. I handed them over along with the tap photos and utility report. He skimmed them, nodded, and turned to Lisa with a look of pure exhaustion. "Ma'am," he said, "this is private property. He has every right to secure it. And based on this, you've been stealing his power." Lisa's face cycled through white, red, and a strange purple. "Do you know who I am?" "I'll have your badge," she screeched. The younger cop snorted. "Calm down or we'll arrest you for disturbing the peace." She stormed off, flinging threats like confetti. That was just the warm-up. I wasn't done. She drained thousands of pesos from my home and acted like I was the VY lane. If she wanted to play neighborhood royalty, I'd make sure her crown hit the dirt. I called the power company, ELCO, and asked for a full estimate of the stolen electricity over the past 8 months. With my logs, bills, and a tech's help, we mapped it out. My usage stayed flat, but the extra draw spiked right when the HOA installed their fancy gate, neon sign, and always-on guard shack gear. The tech was as pissed as I was. By the end of the call, I had an official report and a nudge to get a lawyer. So I did. My attorney, Sarah, was the kind who'd smile sweetly while dismantling you in court. After reviewing the EVY Deng case, she said, "This isn't just the IVYL theft, they could face criminal charges. Let's start with a demand letter. If they were smart, they'd settle. If not, we'd make their lives a legal nightmare." The letter demanded repayment for the stolen power disconnection costs, my new security setup, legal fees, and damages for harassment totaling just over $8,000, or about 450,000 pesos. It was a hefty sum, but so was her crime. The next day, Lisa returned with her husband, a guy who looked like he brokered deals in skyscrapers and thought golf was a talent. She waved the letter like it was junk mail, screaming through my intercom about extortion. I hit the mic button and said coolly, "Take it to a judge. I'd love to hear you explain the illegal tap." Her husband snatched the paper, read it, and went pale. He stared at the ground, then at her, and muttered, "Lisa, shut up. Get in the car." She spun on him, shrieking, but he barked, "Get in the car." They peeled out. I grinned, watching my fence hum, knowing I'd landed a hit. The next morning, a timid knock came at my gate. It was Emily, an HOA board member I'd seen around, always quiet, never pushy. She looked mortified, holding a folder. "I'm here as someone fed up with Lisa's nonsense, not as HOA," she said. I let her in. Over coffee on my patio, she spilled it all: documents, notes, emails showing Lisa had charged residents infrastructure fees for the gate and shack, claiming she'd secured a city hookup. Instead, she'd pocketed the cash and had workers tap my line. No one knew, not the board, not the residents. When asked why their bills were low, she'd boasted about a deal with the city. Meanwhile, I'd been bankrolling her scam. Emily said the board held an emergency meeting after my letter. Most were horrified. Some had even paid Lisa hush money to dodge fake violations. "I hope you sue," she said. A week later, a certified letter arrived from Emily, now acting HOA president. It held an apology, a check for my full demand, and news that Lisa was ousted unanimously. When confronted, she'd flailed, calling it a mix-up, then sabotage, then sexism. It didn't fly. She and her husband sold their house to cover the debts, hers, mine, and the HOA's. MOVYing trucks rolled in fast. The queen was dethroned. The neighborhood exhaled. Emily ran things fairly, and people warmed up, even complimenting my orange trees instead of griping. Peace lasted 3 weeks, then a lawsuit hit. A courier dropped off a multi-page complaint from Lisa, claiming I'd humiliated her, caused distress, defamed her, and tanked her reputation. She wanted 2 million pesos, about $36,000, alleging I'd exaggerated the theft and smeared her. I laughed so hard I spooked my dog. Sarah laughed harder. "She just handed us a gift. We'll bury her in countersuits." We filed for defamation, harassment, damages, and a criminal utility theft charge. In court, Lisa's lawyer argued I'd implied consent by not noticing the tap sooner. Sarah shredded it with photos, reports, footage of Lisa directing workers, and her own recorded rants. The judge, worn out and unimpressed, asked her attorney, "You're suing him for exposing her crime?" They tried to drop the case. Sarah pushed forward. Emily brought more. Financial records pro-VYing Lisa skimmed HOA funds for years, fake landscaping, a luxury sofa, a spa trip billed as mediation. Lisa cracked, screaming in court about betrayal and jealousy. The judge shut her down. Her suit was tossed and she was ordered to pay my fees plus 1.5 million pesos in damages. Her husband filed for divorce the next day, showing up at my door to apologize. He'd uncovered her secret loans and debt. The lawsuit broke him. He set up a payment plan for his half, shook my hand, and left. Lisa moved to her sister's, tried joining the HOA, and got rejected after a Google search. A reporter later called, turning the saga into a ViRao article. It sparked a wave other HOAs self-audited, residents fought back, and my anti-Lisa fortress boosted my property value 20 fan tram. A filmmaker made it a documentary episode, and it exploded online. Real estate agents dubbed my area an HOA escape zone. All I'd wanted was peace. I got it plus a legacy I never planned.